Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 350.
Woo! That was a big woo for 350. Sorry.
That's okay. We appreciate the excitement, Charlie. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm your host, Todd Oxtra, joined by, let's see, at this point, we've been married for many, many years in the podcasting sense, Charlie Carden.
Precious and few are the moments we two get to episode 350. Oh, we did it. 350 sounds like a big deal. It's not a 100 number, or it's not like a 400, 500, but damn it, it's closer than 200 was. So I like 350, and I even like it to the point that our cover, which we'll talk about in a second here, very exciting.
Definitely. And a rare event, we have a repeating guest after last episode. Katie, I will not destroy your name. Katie Quinn Pershon.
Yep, that's right.
Woohoo! I win for I pronounce well. Well, thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of fun last time, and I guess, y'all think I did a pretty decent job. So, you're having me back. So either you're masochists or you had fun too. I'm not gonna go one way or the other.
I won't lie. We were looking for someone to see Eternals, and to be honest,
I know there was a choice.
It was
a choice of one, and that one was me. I get it. That's fine.
There was one slip of paper in the hat. Let's just put it like that. Yes, there we go.
I thought that was the Goblet of Fire. It's fine.
Yes.
Absolutely. and potential spoilers. I'm surprised Charlie decided to be on this podcast to talk about Eternals.
You know what? It was. I was writing the line. There's no doubt. I was trying to figure out both the time and actual interest in seeing it. But we will get to that in a bit.
No spoilers. You'll hear about that at the end of the show when we get to the Thunderdome. Yes.
Well, one thing I do want to jump into. This is issue 350. Obviously, we often reflect on the comic book cover that matches that number. I have talked many times about my love for the Mark Gruenwald Captain America run of the late 1980s. The bulk of which ended with this issue, Captain America 350. Which was in, I'm going to say, 1988, if I'm not mistaken. But it was Steve Rogers, who had been stripped of the title, versus John Walker, who was a psychopath who was given the costume and then kind of lost his shit, kind of like in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series. He just kind of flipped out and started killing people and whatever. It was a bad scene. They finally crossed swords. They fought it out. And then, of course, very predictably, at the end of it, Steve Rogers gets the costume back. But it was great. It was a culmination of a really long, like a two-year run, or almost 2-year run, which had some really crazy stories, including Ronald Reagan becomes a snake, a literal snake, which, Todd, I know we talked about not that long back. So I love this run. It'll always be one of those perennial favorites that I pick up every couple of years and read again, because it's great and it's stupid all at the same time. So, but I've always loved the Captain costume. I've got a friend of mine who's supposed to finally finish it for me, so that cosplay wise I will have both of the costumes that you see pictured here: the comic accurate Captain America, which I wore a couple of episodes back for our Halloween episode, and then this US agent / the Captain outfit with the big unnecessary belt. But I love it.
I have a question for Katie. So, being a artist like yourself, I look at this cover, and it's so interesting that it's essentially like very, what's the best term to put it this way? Balanced in a way. Mm-hmm. And also the Captain's outfit, it's just black. It's like there's no detail to the black portions. So I'm like, as an artist, like, you want to do something easy? Just make it all black, apparently, and half the job is done.
Well, and it's the funny that you mentioned that, because in Charlie, with you mentioning the big belt, that's part of why they have the belt, is because drawing those perspectives that they have to do in comics, they look really, really weird with foreshortening when they don't have that's why Superman and Batman have underwear on the outside.
And it was the same with these two.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Thank goodness. That can be very embarrassing. There's depending what happens.
Otherwise, they would have to wear in cosplay. And Katie, I'm sure you appreciate that as a cosplayer. For male cosplayers, they have dance belts or that I wore. I have this one undergarment that I won't wear anymore called a compression suit, but it looks like an old timey circus strongman outfit where it's got the straps and stuff. Jacked my back up terribly.
Spanx.
So
it's
I
Spanx.
just
That's what you're wearing. It's just
Manx? Is it Manx?
I just won't mess with it anymore. I can't handle it. Yeah, Manx.
Yep.
Manx. So anyway, cool. It was a cool arc, and again, it had some backup stories. One of which was written and drawn by John Byrne, which I love. And then you had some retrospective stuff about different people who had the name of Captain America. So anyway, kind of end of an era of that. And then Todd, not long after this, we did get Cap Wolf. So things just went woo for that title.
It only went up from there, Charlie.
Right. It was a dip, and then it went back up again. But anyway, speaking of dips. Okay, that's not a great transition, but anyway, let's. I
was trying to figure out where you were going with that, and I had no idea.
And your instincts were correct, but as Todd was, I'm sure, going to say, why don't we dip our way into an Uber? We'll get down to the corner of Hollywood and find check in with our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb, for all the rumors and news. So, without further delay, Madam Webb. Take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, Madam Webb, I know. I thought I thought we were gonna, let you and Katie connect, have a ladies' night out, go to TCBY and have some yogurt and just reminisce about the good old days. And I don't think it happened,
every
Katie.
weekend. No, we do that.
You
every
do
weekend.
now.
Who do you think taught me how to have awesome blue hair? It was Madam Webb.
Whoa! Good catch. That's a good catch. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, and her homicidal tendencies will probably be coming down over the years. So that's good to hear. Calming influence.
That's good stuff. Well, without further delay, first up we have the magnificent, she who is without qualification of any kind, Linda Carter, looking to return to the Wonder Woman averse, one of the surviving properties of Flashpoint, I'm assuming. What we're getting out of the Flash movie, we're kind of getting a lot of stuff to go by, but they still want Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman around because the first movie was good. But no, Linda had a great cameo at the end, playing.
It was honestly my favorite part.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of people's it was. Yes,
I think I could have closed my eyes for 2 hours and been like, "Oh, it's Linda Carter." Now it's time to go home. What was it? Meme that I saw about that movie that Wonder Woman 3 was so bad people would have left the theater, and the commenter said, "Wonder Woman 3 was so bad I left my own house."
You mean two?
I mean,
yes, two.
You can see I stand for Wonder Woman. She's one of my favorite, and we watched it on HBO Max. And at a certain point, I got up to get a drink, and Aaron asked if I wanted him to pause. I said, "Don't even bother. I don't."
No,
I'm
we're
invested.
We're good.
No.
I really hope that I'm gonna hold out because, like you said, the first one was really great. I'm really excited having Linda Carter have a more major role. Maybe that will, spark
elevate
some more
things.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And I really hope that Jenkins takes into consideration the feedback that she got from the second one, and we can have this be something good.
I agree, I wholeheartedly agree because again, I think Gal puts on a magnificent portrayal of the character. I think Linda in her time did the same thing, certainly for her time in the 1970s, without a doubt. But what was the name of her character? She was an ancient Amazonian who'd been around for thousands of years. I'm drawing a blank.
I think it started with an A.
Is
Asteria?
Yeah,
Asteria, yes.
Is it in? I bet if we keep scrolling, it'll show up. There you go. So to me, this sounds fascinating. So I am down. I assume this is going into production probably next year if they're talking about casting and getting things rolling.
Scripts being done now. They talked about at DC Fandom that was going to be a go, and I will be curious to see what they do because Patty Jenkins was fully her and Jeff Johns were fully they own the script and everything. So maybe a little bit more feedback, some constructing on it, maybe some different writers could definitely help move this forward because the first movie, except for a few quips and columns I had about it, I thought did a great job. It's always hard to reclaim that magic with the DC. They really haven't had, they've struggled with that second one under this current ownership or whatever, leadership of the series. So we'll see, because they've got a lot of sequels coming out. Shazam's coming out, that sequel. We'll see how Aquaman 2 comes out, but we also have some new ones coming out. So I hope this does well, because such a great character, great actress. Patty Jenkins is fantastic director. So I don't know what missed. I mean, it was supposed to come together. I liked the cast, and just did not work for most people. So cool deal.
Nice. All righty, Rue. All right, what would it, Tad? This next one was yours, so go for it.
Yeah, this is an interesting story because Harry Potter's in a weird place right now. And Katie, you may have heard about this, but that Harry Potter game, the mobile game that is by the people of Pokemon Go, so you think, oh, that's going to be huge. It just closed. It made like $40 million versus Pokemon Go's like $3 billion. Right now, the Harry Potter video game that was supposed to be coming out for consoles has been delayed. And the Fantastic Beasts, and where to find them, essentially they lost Johnny Depp. He's no longer going to be in them. Those movies have not really resonated with anyone. No. And and the third one's coming out with a new actor. So at this point, Harry Potter doesn't, and especially obvious controversy with the creator. I'm kind of taking it apart from her because she is who she is. But this series is loved by billions, and that's the thing. They're still fans of the art versus the artist, sadly. So beyond that, so it becomes, where do they go next? Because after the next Fantastic Beasts, I think Warner Brothers owns the film rights, so they want to obviously continue this. It's a huge moneymaker. There's a Universal Studios park. They want to keep going forward in a different light. So the one thing that has come out since that's canon for Harry Potter is the it's called, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's a play called The Cursed Child, and it's essentially a sequel to the books and movies, where it's Harry Potter in the future, where he's older, and it's about his son or his children, and it's about Harry and Draco's children. So, and Chris Columbus is saying he wants to direct this. So I don't know if this is something is like, I need the money, I want the work, I want to will this into creation, or if this is even possible, because this has only been a Broadway play and it's only been scripted in that format. So to make it to a movie, it's going to have to move forward, and the creator still has 100% creative control, I believe, of all this. So regardless what has happened, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, is this the right direction if they want to continue with Harry Potter, or should they do something different?
I honestly think they just need to buy the creator completely out of it. Like, Rowling can't be a part of this. Rowling or however you say her last name. She can't be a part of the industry anymore. Like, they need to just buy the rights completely from her, because I know that even people who are fans of it, they're like, yeah, I'll read the books I have, but I'm not putting any more money into it, because as like outright transphobic as she is,
right?
A lot of people just don't want to support her, and
very toxic. Yeah.
And I mean, especially when you're talking about like the people who are most influenced, or who had a very heavily influence, was like my generation and younger. Like, they're like, okay, you want to see capitalism work? Then fine, we're not going to support you if we don't like you. And for better or worse, that's like, people talk about cancel culture and it's that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you told us that our dollars count, so we're making them count. And if we don't like you, we're not buying your stuff.
It's financial democracy.
Yeah, that is true. She has made, I've seen a couple of tweets where she said, oh, I already have your money, so I don't care what you think. Well, if you don't have my money, then well, maybe that's a little bit more influential. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And at that point, it's like, yeah, you might, but you're not, like, if you're not getting any more, at some point, that's going to suck for you.
Right.
Well, and it's also going to probably push Warner Brothers in a certain direction, regardless, because they want to make more money. So they can't be in that position, because they're a corporation. They want to bring people into their platforms. And if she is driving potential consumers away, that is just even from a dollars and cents, I don't know where it would take it. If she's that just stubborn and would say, no, I'm never selling for any amount of money, then that puts Warner Brothers in a weird position, because then it becomes, well, what the hell do we do? And then the other part is, I think the equation is, I've not seen creators. I think there's only one other creator I could say who is so out there in their anger and just whatever you want to call it. I mean, hate of a specific group of people. And it's like, I've never seen that before. And it's very odd. It's very, very odd.
Where usually when they say something controversial like that, they're like, oh, we're just going to step away and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And she doubles
never hear from again or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
So which means she really feels passionately about being hateful.
Yeah.
Which is not, you just You've kissed it goodbye. You picked a hill to die on, and die you did.
Right.
Yeah.
Bad call.
I mean, and as much as I love the Harry Potter, I mean, I'm a Ravenclaw. I'm gonna be honest, and I know my house. I took that quiz. I'm gonna be honest, but I'm not gonna purchase any more Harry Potter stuff. Like,
right.
I'll purchase off market fan art from Etsy when I know it's not going to her.
Or make your own. Yeah.
Yeah, or make my own. I have actually.
I was a lifelong fan of Bill Cosby since I was 10, 13 years old. And when the news broke of his decades-long legacy of drugging and raping women, I deleted all of his stuff from my hard drive. And I will never support him again for the same reason that I won't eat at Chick-fil-A. I will not give money to people who hate and hurt other people. I just can't. Just can't do it.
Yeah. It's a very weird world we live in, everyone. But I always say this, Charlie. There is so much entertainment out there that really, quite honestly, it's too easy to just say, I'll skip that because I'll find something I like better.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly
Excellent.
Correct. So, Todd, this next link was a broken link. I didn't find anything.
Oh, well, Katie, this is your story, so we'll just let you. No, the link does not work either.
Yeah,
so
all right. So you're going freestyle, my friend. You're going freestyle.
Here, try that one instead. Basically, it was just a story that I noticed earlier this week, and Image recognized but didn't recognize the fact that some of the members of Image Comics have decided to form Comic Book Workers United. So they're pushing for a union, which I come from a union family, so I'm pro-union. I like the idea of worker equality and having a fair shake on stuff. I didn't love the fact that Image is waiting for the National Labor Relations Board to recognize the union instead of just being like, yeah, unions are cool. That's great, especially with the way that it was formed, or like the origins of Image being more, creative control left to the artist and left to the content creators versus the DC and Marvel kind of ideas of it. So that part kind of bummed me out, but I'm really excited nonetheless, and I hope that everything goes well for the new comics union. And hopefully that means it'll roll over to maybe DC and Marvel so they can not have such awful wage practices.
Right. And Todd, that's definitely something we've talked about, the pay to play and the legacy of, the families of Kirby and Ditko and a lot of those other guys who aren't Stan Lee, who just got the shaft. They've seen no dollars from anything that Disney has done. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. People should be compensated and treated fairly and all those things that unions are ostensibly, to provide beyond the Jimmy Hoffas of the world. You definitely want to see that kind of thing happen. So I'm in complete agreement. Yes.
Yeah, this was unique, and I wasn't 100% sure because, Image was formed to have creator rights, writers and artists. I just don't know how far down that goes, though. Is it the inkers? Is it the letterists? I just don't know how far those rights and getting paid back. But the other part of unions is, and we've seen this with comic book writers and people from that talent, from that, livelihood, they have no health care. They have no, no safety net in case anything goes wrong. They have no residuals of their art and their hard work. So this is, I think, Katie, if I think about this, if it goes broad, this is like not even against a specific company. That's like every professional that works for a comic book company should join this. Collective bargaining. Bring up the largest creator can bring up the smallest creator. And make everyone get their fair share of what's right, because these comic companies are making a lot of money, and I think they need to take care of the people that make their art, make their work. So this makes total sense.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially because there's this kind of and I'm going to go off as the artist background of. A lot of people are like, oh, well, they should feel fortunate for drawing comics because they love drawing comics or they love creating stories. It's like, well, just because you like what you do, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be compensated fairly for it. And so I am very much a fan of, paying people fairly for, the skill, because it's not just a talent. It's not something that, like, I didn't wake up, one day and be like, I know how to draw now, so I'm going to draw. No, that was, 30 plus years of me putting pen to paper to figure out how to do all of this. So it is a very learned skill, and they should be paid for that time.
That's awesome. I have heard about artists doing something called Stack Social. It's almost like newsletters that you subscribe to and you pay to it, and that's how they distribute their material. And people, it's basically directly paying the artists things. It's kind of like a Patreon, but it's a little bit different in the visual arts area. It's almost like it's some people have called it like the modern zine, which Charlie always jokes about zines because remember back in the day you'd get like somebody would publish a zine and have it at a comic book shop and pay $3 for it. But yeah, wow. So I think there's going to be ways, but that only works if you're a known entity, I would say, and you have a large following. If you don't, it's very hard to make hay.
Yeah. And Webtoons is another one that's a very interesting format, especially when you find an artist who knows how to use their scrolling format. There's quite a few comics that I've read on it that have just really changed the way that the panels are built when they're thinking about it versus flipping a page and then scrolling on a screen, and you'll watch characters like fall from panel to panel or something like that. So it's really, really interesting.
Probably that's like the Marvel the Marvel Unlimited. They created Infinity Comics, Katie, and it's exactly that point.
Yeah,
it's using the medium to tell the story. You scroll up.
Pretty sure they got that idea from artists off of Webtoons, because Webtoons has been around for quite a while now, I believe.
Right.
That's cool. Yeah,
and I would imagine you'd only see that kind of offering expand as time goes by, as the format tends to embrace something obviously a little more non-traditional than what we see now, because that's how things go with innovation. People innovate and change things. So that's not a bad thing. All right. Well, Salma Hayek, can't say this hurts my feelings, confirmed she's signed for multiple Marvel Studios movies. And obviously we don't want to get into spoilers this deep, this early on. Obviously Salma Hayek's character of Ajax, which is weird because that was the name of the head tough in the movie The Warriors, which I absolutely love. I'm sure you guys know the comic I'm talking about.
Well, this came out, Kirby created her in 1976, so I'm sure the Warriors took it from that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And it was pretty close. The Warriors came out in 79, so it was pretty close.
Okay.
But The Warriors was based on a comic, or at least it appeared to be. I don't know. I'd have to look into
The Lords of Flatbush?
Why not? There you go. Oh,
I mean,
my
I'm pretty sure that Kirby took it from Ajax the Greek hero. So
I believe so.
There's the OG Ajax.
Exactly. The pantheon of eternal based on the gods. Yes, like Athena.
Itty bitty details. But anyway, not surprising that Disney would want someone with massive star power like Salma Hayek to be in a multi-picture deal. But it does beg the question: what does that look like? Not necessarily alluding to the character, but there are characters that don't make it through the Eternals. Not saying she's one of them, but regardless, I don't know. I mean, I love her as a performer. I've loved her in many things. She's glorious. She's a beautiful woman. I think she's a great actress.
She's my celebrity crush.
Yeah, she definitely makes. And Todd gets a little green around the gills when our friend John and I talk about a hall pass list, but she happens to be on mine. Sorry.
Ever since From Dusk Till Dawn, when she made her Hollywood debut. Well, actually, no, it was Robert Rodriguez's film. She made her debut in that.
Oh, Desperado, where we saw more of her.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. If I could have 100% more Salma Hayek and 100% less Jared Leto, I would be thrilled.
That is not hard to agree with. So
there was another, because they had another trailer for Morpheus or Morbius, excuse me.
No, Morpheus. I want Morpheus in that movie.
I might watch it then.
Yeah, right.
But then they had, what was the other trailer they had? And I'm pretty sure it was a comic trailer or something. And was in it.
Was it the Gucci film?
Oh yeah, sorry, it was the Gucci film. And I was like, come on. I'm like, can we just be done with Jared Leto?
Well, I will say he hardly embraces being really ugly in that movie. So I guess, not every actor is going to say, make me look horrible. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, my goodness. But yes, more Salma Hayek is a good thing. But again, we will talk a little bit, obviously, more about Eternals and what that all really means with the classic Ajax, not the stuff you use to clean the kitchen.
No. Okay, well, last story, Charlie, is an interesting one because, as we know in comic books, no one stays dead. And apparently no one can stay alive. So it's a balance of the living and the dead. Well, apparently DC wants to kill Superman off again. And at this point, Exactly. They've killed Wolverine off. He comes back. Apparently, they're thinking about doing the same thing with Superman. Back in the day, 1992, I remember when this storyline came out, it gave Superman buzz. Again, it was a big deal, made all the headlines, the special issue with the black neoprene bag. They had it, and everybody was buying multiple covers because that will put my kids through college. Well, if you look at the value of those comics today, I think they're worth maybe like $25. If that's still pretty good value for like $3. That's an 8x investment. So you can buy a keg for a party at a college.
Yeah, what are you complaining about? $25 might almost get you a tank of gas. Be excited.
Exactly. So I guess they're teasing that they're going to bring the storyline back with Action Comics 1036. It says, after learning an enslaved race with mysterious Krypton, Superman and Authority travel across the galaxy to dethrone the new Mongol and liberate Warworld, introducing new characters, a new corner of the DC universe. The biggest Superman event since the death and return of Superman begins here. So this could be interesting, and a lot has happened with Superman the last couple of weeks. We found out his son came out as either bisexual, I can't remember, but LGBTQ. I can't remember his orientation.
I thought it was bisexual, but I could be wrong.
Well, I don't know if he specifically claimed it in comics.
Sure.
We do know that now he has dated both individuals who identify as men and individuals who identify as women, so we can just say that he's queer.
There we go.
Perfect. Yeah. And I know everyone jumped to the conclusion it was Kal-El, Clark Kent, and it was not. So it was, once again, it's a lot of people grab these headlines to get the narrative like cancel. They're ruining Superman or whatever. No, it was not that. And this is Jonathan Kent's a great new character. He's awesome. It's kind of weird that Superman now has an adult son. He was a younger kid in the Super Sons series, which I loved a lot. They aged him up because of something. So it's kind of interesting now that we have more of a super boy. Man, teen, super teen.
Like that.
Yeah. So you never know.
Right.
Yeah. Gotcha. But he's been a great character. I've really enjoyed it. And it just expands Superman's humanity to have him protect not only his wife, but his son. So I like this. But he's going to be involved, and he's got more in the line because of his son being also in the line. So I guess we'll see how this works. But it doesn't hurt to give Superman some more buzz. And if it's fun and it's a good story, who cares?
It's a good follow. Yeah, it says that Action Comics 1036, and again, it's crazy comics that are up over 1,000 numbering that when they actually stick with it, because Marvel really likes to play with that. Todd, we've had lots of gags back and forth about legacy numbering and it's carrying both banners, but we don't yet have a Marvel comic that's hit 1,000 issues.
So Charlie, our legacy numbering is probably like 450 at this point for Secret.
Well, we're gonna throw 100
missed episodes, secret episodes. Episode didn't record. Special episodes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, lost episodes. We got a couple of those over on Code 47 for sure. But anyway, it says, issue 1036 kicks off the Warworld saga and will be the most impactful saga in 30 years, obviously leading back to some deaths and stuff, things of that nature. So I don't know, Todd, I know that you've always been willy-nilly about Superman as far as him being boring and or relevant or having any
hurtful.
Yeah.
I know. I think Superman's a great character. I hate when people say he's not a good character. No, that means it's either a bad writer or you haven't read the right comics.
Thank you. Yes, because I love Superman and Clark Kent. I think both of them are great characters, and I think that he's a really great way to show humanity and the struggles of humanity in a really interesting way. And I feel like the problem is that people go to comics for action. I mean, these are the action comics. And a lot of times those stories, like one of my favorite stories is about I think it was a one-off zero issue or a year one issue. And the whole thing is basically an internal monologue of him talking about growing up and the struggles that he had. And then he gets a call from his mom, and I think it was that his cat had passed away.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the thing is that the entire comic, there are these flashbacks of him growing up, and there was this little white cat that sat on the porch with him, and they looked up at the moon together, and it comforted him while he was feeling alone and isolated. So and then it just ended with him looking at the moon, and he buried this cat on the moon because he was like, I want to be able to look up and see you. And I was like, and heartbreaking, but also it showed this loss and how he tries to protect everything, and really how lonely it would be for him. And you don't I don't want to see him punch Darkseid for the 1500th time. I want to see something. I don't want to see him die just because he dies. I mean, there was the other one where I think he died because he got overjuiced by the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And like that.
Oh, All-Star Superman.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I thought that was a great way to
Absolutely.
have him, like, go out. I thought that was beautiful, and it was very, very Superman. But otherwise, I'm like, just having him punch things, like, I'll just watch One Punch Man. That's way better.
Right.
Like, give me some existential dread with that.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think with Superman, you can, just like, Charlie, you would agree with this, I think. The Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek, in a way, does a great way of reflecting society through the lens of sci-fi. Can take some really good, bring in an alien. Yeah. You can do the same thing with Superman as being an alien and experiencing things. And just, so like I said, it's a good writer solves all ills. Right. I mean, I don't know how often you've read a comic where you're like, the art, the writing is great, the art isn't bad, but I'm going to continue to read it. How often do you read a comic because the art's great, the story sucks?
Right.
I typically leave.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just don't care. So, well, cool. Well, I am curious to see where this goes. I have never myself been a stalwart reading a Superman, but if this ends up being something great, I got every reason to tune in. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, that is. Oh, we've got a dog appearing on the show.
The
dog is here.
It's the show dog.
This is Minerva, Minnie.
Oh my goodness! What a doll face. Good. Well,
you may hear her on the podcast as she chases the ball. Who knows?
And it would be a good chance that my cat Jessie will show up again, as she does often. So we are pet friendly. We are pet positive over here at SFU always.
Absolutely, until my cat and my dog start fighting, which is great. Yeah, right. So with that, we are done with the news, and now it's time for us to get some libations with our favorite dining sensation, and that's the Geek Easy.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, the cover band's playing, drinks are pouring, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Katie, anything you've been watching or reading that's got you geeked out?
I have been, speaking of Webtoons, I've been trying to catch up on Lackadaisy. It is a comic about cats in the 1920s Prohibition era. And it's a great one if you want to just kind of have fun with it. It's a little quirky, a little strange. The artwork is fantastic. That's what kind of drew me to it. And it's a really great example of kind of that dynamicism of using the format in a really, really interesting way. So that one's super fun. And then,
so are these cat bootleggers?
Yeah, they're cat bootleggers. Yeah, it's fantastic. Like I said, the artwork alone should at least get you kind of hooked on it to check it out, because it's all done a very, I believe all of it's kind of like a black and white sepia tone, so it looks kind of antique-y, based off of photographs type of deal. Yeah, very nice style to it.
Cool. Okay, well, I'll need you to spell that or write that in the notes so I can look it up, because I'm curious.
That's cool. Good. There you go.
Oh, see, I spell it like laxative, so I lose.
No, it's lax, as in lacking a daisy, like the flower, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
One should never lack a daisy. It's no good.
Anything else, Katie?
I have also been, we've been watching Inside Job, which is
I am the same one. That was going to be mine. So we can talk about that.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I didn't actually look at what yours were because I wanted to be surprised.
No, that's very good. So we can talk about that right now, and then Charlie can have the rest of it for himself. But I am also watching Inside Job. It's a new show. It's the first for Netflix animated. And what made me curious about this animated show was it's by one of my favorite creators in animation, Alex Hirsch, who did Gravity Falls. Mm-hmm. I love Gravity Falls, which was so surprising, because Gravity Falls is a Disney show, very fun, very much I don't know the best way to go. It's like Stranger Things with an uncle and the two kids. They have crazy adventures where there's real big feet and gnomes and things like that. But it's ridiculously funny, goofy, silly, but it had an overarching storyline, got dark at times, and had an adorable pig. It had Jason Ritter as the lead, as the lead male, and then you had Christian Shaw as the sister, who were co-leads, and they had their grunkle Stan, great uncle Stan, who was just a weird old codger, who was also always trying to bilk people out of money. Ran this shop. Love the show. It's fantastic, one of my favorites. But he made the show, which when I watched it on Netflix, holy cow, F-bombs are dropping constantly.
Oh yes,
And
it's very much adult.
I'm so impressed.
For Gravity Falls, this is not Gravity Falls. This is like if Gravity Falls was on Adult Swim.
Oh, perfect designation. And Charlie, this show is about basically this woman who's like a leading scientist at the secret basically organization that essentially runs the country, and they are hiding all the secrets. Like there truly are lizard people, there are like AI, they're trying to take over the world, and they basically try to control everything and keep the American public like unaware. And they have like these secret overlords they work at, and it's really well done.
It is all of the conspiracies are real, and it is all like they are the deep state. The company they work at is Cognito Inc. So it's very much a play of just incognito. It's very, very funny that way. And what I was very surprised by is that I watched the first episode and I was thinking, I'm like, how are they going to do this where they are both having characters working and confirming that all of these conspiracies are real, but then at the same time also making fun of the conspiracies that are taking place, because it's very obvious that it is supposed to be making fun of the absurdity of thinking like the earth is hollow and there are lizard people that live in there. And I think they do. I think we've watched like 9 episodes at this point, and I think they do a really, really good job of carrying that through and kind of keeping it consistent, because they will make like these weird one-off lines and stuff, and like it's a real, and that'll sound completely insane, like obvious, and you're like, they had to have made that up in the writer's room, and then you find out, no, that's a real conspiracy. Someone actually said that.
Yeah, it's really clever. The jokes are coming rapid fire. The actors are great. It's got, what's his name? Clark. I can't remember his name. Clark. Oh, I can't remember his name. He's the nerdy looking guy with glasses, was in Hot Tub Time Machine. Clark Gregg, is that his name?
Clark Duke.
Clark Duke. He's in it. He plays like the new guy that the director, the lead hates, and she's got a crazy dad who basically had a mental breakdown. It's going against the government, so he's like basically whatever he's saying is true, but he's kind of crazy too. So yeah, it's a really good
dad. It's great.
Yeah, it's really well done. Yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm only in episode 1. I'm like, I'm sold on this idea. So the fact that you're 9 through and it's still keeping up, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I think it remains very solid.
Excellent. How exciting, you guys. Good stuff. Oh my goodness, what was that?
Oh, that was my chair. Or no, what is that? Is that a bird?
Are you guys hearing the squeaking? That's my dog with her ball now.
That's okay.
She's like super manic right now. Aaron took her on a walk hoping it would calm her down, but I think she's just very angry that we're gone for like 3 hours to watch Eternals. So
no.
I think she's angrily squeaking her ball at Aaron right now.
I'll show you. Give me love. Give me love. I'll distract you.
Yep,
well, I will make my recap quick, and then we can move on to talk about Eternals, and then you can satiate the desires of this animal. So Katie will know that here in Grand Rapids it's a big week because we're coming up on Grand Rapids Comic-Con. Now this is I would like to almost say the premier social event for the people in our world in the state.
Absolutely. I don't think you're wrong in saying that.
Yeah, I think, and I've known Mark Hodges, the guy who puts on Grand Rapids Comic-Con, for years. He is a Class A weirdo. I'm going to come right out there and say it. I don't think he listens to the show, but if he does, we'll have words. It's okay. But this guy, for all of whatever, puts on a dynamite show. My club, the USS Grant Petoskey, featured here on this beautiful piece of swag that I'm wearing. The international.
I didn't realize we could just do like blatant plugs like that.
Well, why else would
start throwing merch out all over the place?
Why else would anyone bother to be podcasting at all? And the fact that they can make a couple bucks. But anyway, yeah, our club, the International Star Trek Fan Club of West Michigan, the USS Grant Petoskey, for the second year in a row, we're going to have a great display set up. We have a new prop that I'm not trying to spoil, but by the time you listen to this, if you're local to Grand Rapids, you'll know that it's out there, so please come down and see it. But we love engaging with Star Trek fans, talk to people about our club. My wife, and it's something that my wife and I do together, which is in marriage. How often do you really run into that? It can sometimes be few and far between that you can really have a passion to share, and that's what makes it that much more important to us. So I'm very excited about that. Plus, I get to be with all of my all of my geek friends, my cosplay friends, and I don't talk a lot of cosplay in the show because Todd doesn't let me, and that's fair. That's fair because I don't let him talk about video games. So we have an agreement. But I get to connect with cosplay friends. Of course, get to enjoy great merch, great artists, and stuff like that. So I'm very excited. But again, April and I we're workers in this, so we're spending most of Thursday getting set up. We work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then we break down, and then we collapse on Monday. We have Monday off because we're just gonna vegetate because it is just we're working the entire thing. Not only that, we took on at the request of the events promoter, changing out of Star Trek gear and getting into superhero gear to promote this 5K run that the con is putting on with the state games that Meyer puts on. So it's just there's a lot going on. Uh-oh. Did we freeze?
No, I'm here.
Oh, we had to drop out. Okay, well, make a note of it. But anyway, very excited, super fired up to do that. And if you're hearing my voice, if you're in Grand Rapids, come on down. We have a lot of fun, and we would love to see you. So
I do have a question. I don't live in Michigan anymore. So obviously Grand Rapids Comic Con. Is Motor City Comic Con still the big thing? Because I know that's been huge. It's been there for years. It's a bigger part of the state, right? So
it is, and I would say, you know, I can't necessarily speak to if it's bigger, if it's smaller. I know I went to Motor City Comic Con back in 2019. Todd, you and I went to that show back in the 90s, and it was when Comic Cons were about comics. It wasn't necessarily about celebrities or any other thing. That was great. I did not really enjoy my experience at Motor City Comic Con back in 2019. That's not to necessarily discount anyone else's enjoyment of it. I know it just happened a couple of weeks ago. I didn't go. And maybe it's perhaps because I live here in this area. And
Charlie, you have no bias whatever when it's Grand Rapids, man. You're like Mr. Grand Rapids. So I take what you say with I know it's your love. I just like they have Elijah Wood, they have Ice-T, they have big names going there. So it's a different experience.
It's true. I'm a Detroiter as well. You know that those are my roots. I did attend that show, but I didn't feel it to be as smooth of an experience.
Well, you weren't involved in it either. So you're once again, you're biased, man. You've been going, you're part of it, yeah.
I don't know, Katie, chime in. What do you think? Have you attended both? Do you have an opinion?
I have not been to Motor City Comic Con, and specifically because in doing research as an artist, because I did have a booth that I was running for my fan art for quite a few years. The feedback that I was hearing from artist communities and their experience at Motor City was not the best. And a lot of like the same stuff that Charlie was just saying is that it was very unorganized. The sales were not great. And that it was just kind of and it was very, very expensive to go. Like their booth charges were, I think like twice as much as what Grand Rapids was charging, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And it seemed like the audience wasn't like that different in size, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, granted, like my first time going to, or no, I take it back. I think the second time going to Grand Rapids, I was the badge artist. So I had a different experience on the second time, the second go around, but it was like you said, you know, Mark, I've had a great experience with Mark. He was very, very personable every time I worked with, even when I was just there as an artist, like he was going out of his way to say hello to me, to make sure that I was, you know, taken care of. And as someone who's running a con that's got, you know, tens of thousands of people walking through the doors.
Right.
I thought that was very impressive.
Right.
And I was just looking at the guest list. It seems like they may be more like a Wizard World type. So it's a little bit more, and the artists always get screwed in those type of areas versus the smaller shows. Like in Minnesota, we are doing we had Wizard World. We've done some things like that. Now they're going to a new con, which was small this year. They're trying to make it bigger, but we have a lot of local stuff too. So I understand it. And yeah, that balance between big names and things like that versus smaller, more, more local artists, things like that sort of thing. So I was just looking because I just remember Motor City Comic Con being a major show, and Grand Rapids Comic Con is growing. So it's a little bit different. So,
and I would say it's funny because I saw Mark yesterday because I worked at a toy show in Jackson with my friend Miranda, and Mark was also a vendor. So we were chatting quite a bit about, he has really struggled to get guests to attend because of COVID. You know, we're still kind of coming out of that fog. But again, there is such a desire for people to congregate and just to see each other, you know, in the cosplay aspect and just to do vendor things and participate in gaming events and stuff that I think it's going to be massive. So again, for those of us who really belong to the community, like Katie and I do in particular, it's a very big deal. So I'm very very fired up to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Secondly, and again, we've not watched this. I've got my mother is staying with us right now, and she doesn't like things that are scary and violent. But the new Dexter series is out, and my wife loved Dexter. So we're dying to watch it, but I got to make sure it's after Mom goes to bed so that we can tune into it. But no, I'm fired up about that. I actually thought it was coming out on the 12th, but I guess it's out now. That's what the pop-up on Roku told me. So I have Showtime through Paramount Plus because it was a bundle to put it together. So we'll be sitting down to tune into that. Dexter's is a series that a lot of people really bitch about how it ended. It was very abrupt. Then again, after watching The Sopranos, I don't think there could be more of an abrupt ending than there was to that show.
Did Tony Soprano drive off in a boat into a hurricane? I can't remember.
No, at the end of that show, the family was having dinner.
No, it's a joke, Charlie, because everybody said the ending of it was so ridiculous. It was kind of just, what the hell just happened?
Whatever, I guess. But at any rate, the ending of The Sopranos was like, come on, man. And it's somewhat analogous to the way that Dexter ended. But I'm excited. Again, I love that show. I'd never seen it till April, and I got together. She's like, you got to watch this. And it's about, Dexter is a forensic pathologist with the Miami Police Department, but he's also a serial killer who exclusively kills criminals or basically ne'er-do-wells who slip through the cracks of society and get away with crimes. Dexter then gets them and kills them, chops them up, and throws them in the ocean. Right, wrong, I don't know.
Potato.
Yeah, exactly. Deo. Yeah, exactly.
So Charlie, before we pivot off of this, we need an update on Roku.
I've not had any issues. I've not tried to do Dune again. I did just listen to our episode from last week, so I'm giving more thought to just being a little like, I have a smart TV. Maybe I should use it, but I've had that particular, like the functionality of that smart TV really kind of jacks me back and forth, so to speak. So I don't know. I don't have a great update. But you're really telling me that upgrading my Roku is the way to go, so I'm going to keep that in mind.
If your Roku is older than like 3 to 4 years old, get it, because once again, they're cheap.
No, it's usually about a year or two they fart out, so I get another one.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say the Ultra. Go higher end, and they're better. That's the one I have, and you get it for like $60 this holiday. So yeah, or at all fails, AirPlay. Put it up there.
Okay.
Super easy, barely inconvenience, as they would say. Oh, well. Well, thanks, everybody. Good to know everybody's having fun in the world of nerd. Charlie, good luck with Grand Rapids Comic Con. Oh, as well, Katie, to you as well. Have a great time, guys.
We will do it. All right. Well, let's take it from here. Let's hail down a Uber to get to the airport, to go to the land down under, to get to the Thunderdome, to talk about the Eternals.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered God, oh man, talk about a screw up. Let me start over again. I will edit that out, Charlie. Let's try that one again. Man, only 350 episodes. I'll get it right one of these days. Oh well, we'll get there. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. This week, we are doing our review of The Eternals. Spoilers are ahead, so watch the movie, then come back, please. So with that, you've been warned. Now we're going to get into this. The Eternals is based on a comic book from 1976 by Jack Kirby. Essentially, they are a fictional extraterrestrial race of humanoids appearing in American comics by Marvel. They're described as an offshoot of the evolutionary process that created sentient life on Earth, which leads to the inevitability of war against their destructive counterparts, the Deviants. The Eternals, of course, were created by Jack Kirby. This was kind of his take on the New Gods. Right. So, which was a precursor to this as well. And then the actual synopsis for the movie is the Saga of the Eternals, a race of immortal beings who live on Earth and shaped its history and civilizations. Yes. So the Eternals was directed by Chloe Zhao. It's starring Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Camille Nanjiani, Leah McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Lauren Ridloff, Barry Keogh, Don Lee, Harish Patel, Kit Harington, Salma Hayek, and Angelina Jolie for a budget of $200 million, 157 minutes, and currently at $161 million box office worldwide. There we go. So that gets you up to what The Eternals is. Now we're going to talk about the actual movie that we watched. Charlie, you saw this on Friday?
Thursday night. Thursday
night. Ooh.
Yeah,
They
because
were
I
for
was
opening.
Yeah, I was otherwise engaged on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I knew I wasn't going to make it. So yeah, I did snag that, and even though April was having her class, I had to go solo. But my buddy Joe joined me, so we got to have a hang and watch this movie. And yeah, we watched this movie.
Okay. I saw it on Saturday. My wife had said she wanted to watch it, but I said, the Rotten Tomatoes aren't great. Let me gauge it to see if it's good. I will gladly see it again with you if you want to see it, or maybe take a friend, take Logan if you want to do that separately. So I watched it on Saturday at 11. So, man, long movie, like you said. But we'll talk about what I thought about in a second. So, Katie, when did you see it?
I literally got about like a half an hour before we started. I think I walked through the door like 10 minutes before we went on. So we started, the movie's showtime was 4:30 this afternoon. So
Holy shit.
yeah, so I am fresh off of it.
Have the absolute freshest take. I would almost say Katie should be driving the bus.
Oh no, I have ADHD, so I'll be about where you guys are.
Well, hopefully between the three of us, we can at least get on the same page of what happened in this movie. The good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of like where we see this landing at the end. So let's kick this off. So this movie, as I said, was long, but I think that was because it had to be. This is the beginning of something different in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, essentially not touching on Marvel at all, except for a couple of mentions. It is essentially establishing a very complex and different type of thing that Marvel has not had before. So that's the heavy lifting and telling their story. The Guardians of the Galaxy was the last group that they introduced in a movie. But that group wasn't establishing like a lot of mythology. It was just, here's your crazy cast of characters. They're mercenaries, go. And they're goofy and they're funny and there's a cool soundtrack. Less heavy lifting to do. It was funny and fun. So that gets people in the door. This movie was not trying to be that. It was definitely more of a cinematic experience based on the director. The cinematography, beautiful. Complex characters, the Eternals. As Charlie, you and I have talked about this, there's never been a successful Eternals book. They don't have a lot of resonance with any type of fan base. And we have struggled to find a good comic book that's like, this is what's great about the Eternals. Kind of snoozers, in a way. Not really endearing. None of the characters stick out as being like, oh, they're great because of X. So I think that's part of the difficulty they had. So I think that was part of what the movie had to do, was establish these characters, give you a reason to care, outside of the fact that there really is none of your favorite Marvel characters or drops.
Right.
And I would say through the whole movie, there was nothing here for anybody that loves a Marvel movie at all. The end of the movie credits, anything in this movie was shown, essentially all new to almost 100% of the audience, unless you're deep dive into the comic lore.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And even backing up those last two scenes, you're like, okay. Yeah, unless you're like, I got it, and I got that, and I totally get this, because I've been reading Marvel Comics since I was 6. I got it. But to your average MCU person who saw the Avengers in 2012 and you're like, oh, I'm all about this. This is the greatest thing in the world. I feel like it would be a complete miss. I agree with you. That's the Stingers in particular.
Absolutely. So, Katie, you have, I don't want to pass judgment on your experience with the Eternals, but from your viewing of this and your experience with it, I mean, is this something you felt like, did I miss something, or do you feel like I got it as a concept?
Cohesive.
Okay.
And granted, like I had heard kind of the synopsis of what, like I had read a few things like talking about, how like Chow was directing it and, the big cast and all that stuff. So I knew some of it going in as far as, they were created by Sentinels, they're fighting the Deviants. Cool. But I really, really enjoyed it. I'm going to be honest. And I know that I might be on the outs with this. But I didn't know, like I knew Kirby created the Eternals. I've never read the comics. I'm actually a little disheartened to hear that the comics aren't that great, because I was kind of like, I wonder if I should go back and find some of the comics. Hopefully they take some of, what was created in the movie and, push that forward and bring that into the comics. I would love to see that. But I thought that, especially for having a big cast, like you said, with Guardians of the Galaxy, that was very much a very easy story to tell. Like, I even feel like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, when they tried to do a heavier narrative with his dad and everything, it got kind of weighty, because that's not what you really went to those movies. That you didn't go to that movie for that. Where this one I felt was a little bit more grounded in the way that it was trying to express the characters. And, and I was actually thinking about like the Superman dilemma we were talking about, of him being a human character, and his stories are best when you're showing their humanity. And I felt like that was kind of the duality they were playing with in the movie. But that said, I also feel like it'd be a better TV show.
Yeah, in a way. Well, and it's funny because
the breadth of their story. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and Charlie, we remember how much we were interested in the Inhumans when they were going to launch that TV series back in the day. Yeah, and it had a lot of missteps, and I think, probably, I mean, that was before we had was that the same time that we had the Netflix Marvel series as well, or was that before?
It was intermingled, and obviously the Inhumans was on ABC. They tried to turn it into a big cinematic event. Who's like, oh, it's an IMAX. I was like, at the time, I was like, oh, maybe we should go check this out. It was so shitty. I cannot even imagine what that would look like on an IMAX screen.
It would have been terrible.
The thought of it actually makes my sphincter tighten up. I'm not down with that.
Well, and it wasn't even that it looked bad. It was everything about it was bad. The action was bad. The writing was bad. The CG was bad. Like everything about it was just terrible.
It would have. I think it would have really hurt to see it on a huge screen. You would have been like, my burning eyes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. Like, if in Humans, which I would say, in the comics, they're more beloved. They've had some better runs. I was thinking, well, if that failed, then the Eternals are much more in the comics. They're far more remote. They are not endearing.
There's nothing to fall back on. That's the big.
They don't even have a lot of like personality. I mean, the Neil Gaiman run I thought was one of the best, but they leaned on the. They don't know who they are, and they're discovering that they're Inhumans. So it's kind of that trope. You get like, I'm secretly someone discovering that you were them, and this one didn't do it. These Eternals who were sent to Earth to protect it from the Deviants, that was their mission. And eventually, once they killed all the Deviants, they were going to move on and essentially get called back by the Celestials. So that's kind of the premise here, and now they have to come out, and why they didn't, because basically they have interfered with humans a little bit because they lived among them. They revealed who they were. They got some technology from them, but they didn't solve wars. They talked about that. I think it made sense, the approach. Now, my question to you, I want a thought on this. If Thanos can snap and take 50% or whatever of the life forms off the planet, or the universe, whatever.
Right. The whole thing.
So they didn't cover that any of the humans were impacted by it, as far as I know.
The Eternals.
Oh, sorry, the Eternals, yes.
Or the Inhumans. Yeah.
The Eternals,
still can,
and this is, obviously heavy spoilers, the Eternals aren't technically organic. So I would say that they probably didn't count.
They're organic, right? Because they are organic. They have blood. They do things. They're engineered, right? So they were creations of the Eternals, Celestials.
Yes, but are they, to Katie's point, are they considered to be organic life forms? Therefore,
I think so. I mean, organic. They have carbon. They have cells. But they're basically genetically engineered to not age, not anything. So they're a different type of life form in a way.
But
they kind of compared them, like, even in their creation and their manufacturing, like, it seemed like they were taking more of like an android, like, maybe like the Terminator man and machine type of aspect to
maybe
it,
a cyborg or something. Kind
of controlled, intelligent design type of deal is the way that I took it.
Yeah, kind of like an Asimov, construct. AI has feelings, things like that. But so that was one of my questions. So wouldn't have 50% of them gone away, but apparently not. So,
but and it could be the random maybe 50%, maybe one of them did go away. Who knows? But it was danced around. The whole Thanos issue was touched, and again, we saw just very brief MCU related touches, like. You see Kip Harington's character of Dane Whitman, who is the Black Knight. Sorry, the big sword at the end was the spoiler. But the Black Knight is a classic Avengers character. He was part of the run in the 90s, which also included Cersei, actually. And they had a brief romance, actually, in the comics. Though in that run, Crystal, who's one of the Inhumans, ironically, was the bigger love interest for the Black Knight during that run. But then again, that was also the leather jackets era, and the Black Knight had a lightsaber. So
So
I
Drake
think
must have been really big then, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
with his leather jackets and brooding.
Not
Yeah.
a great run. Yeah, leather jackets with the sleeved rolls up. You got to
Yeah,
be cool and extreme.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm right in because Katie, I've talked on the show before about how I've done a complete read through of the entirety of the Amazing Spider-Man, which is up to almost 900 issues. I've read them all. So I said I want to do the same thing with the Avengers, but I've really gotten snagged because I got really snagged in a run in the early 70s, was too hard to read, and then now I'm back in that 90s run, which I read when I was a teenager. But trying to do it now, it's like it's very difficult, and I've got another 25 years worth of comics to catch up, or at least 20, because I still read it currently. So it's just not that easy. But that run was bad. It was Black Knight, Cersei, and Crystal were the three main female characters, all with matching brown leather jackets, but short, kind of rolled up sleeves, kind of just,
Yeah, Marvel in the 90s had some hard times. And I would say,
Yeah.
Charlie, being a completionist is fine, but that's a lot of time wasted on things that aren't very good.
No, I'm going to tell you that it's not something I'm racing to finish, but in the completionist aspect, in my lifetime, I will get there because it's important.
Okay.
Because I did
Okay.
the Amazing Spider-Man thing.
I'll put that on your tombstone. Read all of the Avengers, regretted 50% of it.
Yeah, the Thanos snap. Yes,
Exactly. You could snap half of the bad stories. So,
Right.
I mean, so it is an interesting point. We did have these spoilers, and we'll get into that at the very end. I will say I enjoyed the film. And Charlie, I told Charlie, I'm not in on the Eternals, but maybe this is the opportunity they have to make this Eternals version the best version of Eternals, because the comic book source material has literally done nothing for anybody. So I'm like, you know what? The worst thing it can do is start from scratch, go from there, and make these characters interesting. And I think that's where they succeeded. They gave these characters personalities. They made these characters a family. And I think this is done more so than any other Avengers MCU film. This is a family that has lived together for 7,000 years. They had emotions and relationships and drama and, betrayals. They separated and they came back together. And I don't think I think people took that away from this film, that this was truly about a family that ultimately was torn apart at the very end, and
I would say without a doubt, and again, I have mixed emotions about this film. It wasn't really a powerhouse like the Avengers were, where the Avengers were people thrown together in different aspects, and obviously a few of them knew each other and a few of them didn't, and they were definitely at odds. But again, you think about your own family. I mean, Todd, you have a complicated relationship with your sister. I have a complicated relationship with my brother, pluses and minuses. I have, it's the same thing in my mom's family, my dad's family. There's always family dynamics are always totally jacked. But you got to see through the lens of this film, these characters who have known each other for 7,000 years, at least in their current recollection of incarnation. But as the film continues to explain that they've always held these roles, and they're these quasi, cybernetic organisms, and maybe they're not all working towards the same goal. And that's ultimately what we see with Icarus, closer to the end of the film, that it's family, and family is jacked, and family will break apart and not see each other and still come together and have the same goddamn arguments they always have because things don't get resolved. And so that resonated with me probably more so than any other issue in this movie, I would say.
That was the nice thing, is that because we keep having these kind of repeated found family stories with the Avengers and with Guardians of the Galaxies, where it's, these unlikely folks that are thrown together and they somehow make it work. Well, this was, in all extensive terms, this was the literal family. They were created together. They were born together. They were meant to be together. And so this is more about a story of an estranged family versus a found family, and trying to follow that dynamic and work through those disagreements. And sometimes it didn't work out so well for everyone. R.I.P. Ajax. Spoilers. But watching that go through it, and at the end, you see Icarus regretting his decisions and that sort of thing. But they're just kind of sitting there okay, well, now what do we do? Because they know that it's like when a family member makes a mistake and you're like, okay, I guess I'll forgive you because you said you're sorry, but it still is there, and so you're not really sure what to do. And I liked the weight that was there. It felt very grounded, and like there were a lot of scenes that I really really enjoyed where it felt like there were stakes there, even though I'm like, this is the MCU, no one's gonna die. So, but
Right.
even like with the scene in the Amazon where they're being attacked by the deviants, and like the one has like grabs Icarus by the head and he's like flashing his eye beams. Like it felt very like I was like, that's Superman. That's the Superman I want to see.
Mhm.
That's
Absolutely.
the struggle
Yeah.
I want to see right there.
Right.
And I'm like, how is Marvel doing a better Superman?
Absolutely. Yeah, and in a way we did have consequences. We had two of the main Eternals die. We had one Eternal who essentially, and I'm not sure 100% with Thena if she will still have those issues continuing on because of the different. So she was the one that maintained memories that was conflicted, because all this came down to, it was a lie that they were basically Ajak. And I didn't understand why Ajak continued on being the consistent one versus being recreated. I don't know if because she had to continue to be the leader.
In charge. Yeah. Well, I think it wasn't
Okay.
that she was. I think her memories were still wiped. It's just it's kind of like, the general who gets the full, like gets all of the declassified information or the secret information versus the soldiers who are just given orders. So I think she was given the full scoop, or at least that's how I kind of saw it. And I would have liked to know how Icarus had found out. I don't know if it was that like Ajak just confided in him because he kind of was like the second in command, or how that worked out specifically. But I would have liked to know a little bit more. And that's where I feel like, even though like, I did really, really enjoy the film. I think that having it where we could have done it like a 5-series arc on Disney Plus. Now, if I remember correctly, this movie was announced before Disney Plus was really so much a thing.
I believe so. Yeah.
So like, I can understand they were like, we already said it was going to be a movie, so it's going to be a movie. But I would have really loved to see it so that there would have been some time to like really spend with these characters, especially because I'm going to be honest, I was not expecting like, I enjoy Angelina Jolie. Like, I watched Maleficent specifically because I just loved her look and her portrayal. But I was like, I don't know how she's going to do in a superhero movie. But one of my favorite characters, not just because she was like, she was the goddess of war, and I love Athena and Greek mythology. But I also just absolutely loved her character. I thought it was an amazing character, and she did an amazing job.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting because you think of Angelina Jolie as more, not a bit player. She was a bit player in this. She was not a lead role. Gemma Chan was the lead actor apparently in this film, and we had a lot of interesting dichotomy between the different actors. I thought the cast was very strong. I liked the dynamics between the actors, very good. Like I said, it was a long movie, so I think that's a lot to digest. The action scenes, though, that last action scene between Icarus and characters, I was really impressed by it. I thought it was one of the best ones because it was finally seeing all of their powers culminating. Byron Tyree Henry, fantastic character, wonderful, protecting his family. He's got a lot on the line, more so than anyone else. So to see him come forward and actually not thinking he's the powerful one, and he's the one that actually takes out Icarus, was amazing. Yeah, I loved it. I think this was a really cool way to show these characters. But once again, I think the problem with this movie is, in a way, not a problem, but it was just the unfortunate part will be the audience thinking about a Marvel film. This is the least Marvel. This is more of a DC type film of what they're trying to accomplish. And they didn't have the jokes per second. They had some good humor in it, but it was more of a grounded film, took its time to tell a story. And quite honestly, I've seen worse films where they try to do so much lore and everything else. And it's like, I got 5 minutes left to like kill the big boss or just something like that. And I felt like this did a pretty good job with it. So yeah. And we're left in a place where I'm like, at the very end, I'm like, okay, this is how it's going to end. Nope. Erisham collects the remaining Eternals who betrayed him. Essentially, they're gone. And then we have the rest are on a ship and doing something else. Right. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I know we talked about this, the spoilers, the end credits now. We've the first one. So, Katie, were you completely like, what the heck is going on with these people showing up?
With Thanos' brother.
Hip and Eros, aka Star Fox, which it's funny they present him as Star Fox. I'm like, Star Fox is a Nintendo 64 character. Yes, he's in the comic, but I'm like, it was so weird to say Star Fox versus Eros. Because Charlie, you and I have seen Star Fox in the comics. When I looked at Harry Styles, which I thought that's Harry Styles as Eros.
It took me a hard minute to pin it down because I was like, just on the tip of my tongue trying to figure out who that was, but I was like, wow, they fucking nailed it with this one because again,
Eros
is a quasi-rapey character of his
pheromone abilities.
is to literally, as said in the comics, to stimulate the pleasure centers of other beings, and I'm like, that's a little too Bill Cosby for me.
They're going to have to change that for the movies because it doesn't play in it. But his in the comics, he has a cool look, and I always thought he looks kind of like Wolverine with his hair. This one, he looks so generic and bland. I'm like, that's a horrible design. I hope they fix it.
See, now, and the thing is, I don't know anything about Eros. But I immediately recognized Harry Styles because I think it was it Thena who asked who he was, and I go to myself, I'm like, how do you not know Harry Styles? Come on.
Come on,
watermelon sugar, baby.
It's
Harry Styles.
I dropped a 1980s Avenger, a snippet from 1980 Avengers cut in the flow that you can see him in his full jumpsuit glory with the V-neck and the pointy Wolverine. Yeah,
he's got pointy hair. Yeah. It's very weird, but he's very cool looking. I always thought he was kind of interesting looking character, odd goofball. Yeah, he was never a character that you really like. And then the other character, Pip, he's like this just weird little troll, kind of like a hype man, drunk half the time, a goofy character. He was always part of that cosmic Marvel. He was actually buddies with Drax.
It was Patton, wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah,
Patton?
it was Patton Oswalt.
That was
definitely
Patton
Oswalt.
That man is my fucking hero. I am such a fan of Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, anything that I've always enjoyed everything that he does.
I saw him here in town last year in 2019. God.
He's going to be here. Oh, I think I missed him. He was just here too, and I would love to see him. But the funny part about I will say Eros, he is an Eternal. So this is the funny part. Thanos is part Eternal, part Deviant. So it's an interesting viewpoint too, because that was an interesting standpoint. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So we've got Pip showing up, who's kind of comic relief. Yeah.
And to go back to what Charlie was saying about Eros's powers, I feel like selecting someone like Harry Styles was probably specifically to counter that ability, because Harry is so comfortable with gender fluidity and kind of challenging those gender norms. So I feel like it's like, had I known what Eros's powers were, and then they cast someone who played like hyper masculine characters, and if they had put like Vin Diesel in there or something, I would have been like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, what?
Yeah, it's a bad fit.
Seeing someone like Harry Styles, who is much more comfortable in that flexibility, and who understands that gender is kind of a concept. So I have a little bit of faith that they'll know kind of how to navigate that, and I'm interested to see how they play out those powers now. I do hope that the CG gets better for Pip, because that was like really distracting for me.
It was a little distracting. Yeah,
I agree.
Terrible.
Yeah, if you can do Thanos respectably, you can do Pip respectively. And this, and I hate to say this, but these end credits where they have to play with things, I feel like they're playing fast and loose with them. A lot of them, like it's last minute. It's like, what can we do? Oh crap, we filmed this movie 8 years ago. Now what can we put in? Okay, let's do it quick on the sly, and we're in COVID times. Put it in! Yay! We landed it 2 minutes ago. So we have that one. So that's interesting, because that means the Eternals will return. We'll have them join it. It becomes more of a cosmic thing. Where do they play? How do they think? But basically, like, once again, 3 of Eternals are dead, assumed. Icarus is gone, who was the presumed leader.
Flew into this. I was like, that feels a little on the nose to me. Although I do have to say, there's a side note, because they said Sprite made up the story about Icarus flying too close to the sun. I really want to know if Sprite also made up the story about Cersei turning men into pigs.
That's part of, that's true. From the mythology. Yeah, Cersei did, yeah.
Is that I was like, oh, Cersei from the Odyssey, and then I remembered what her powers were, and I was like, oh, please tell me that was a story that Sprite made up, because that would just be so.
That'd be great. Absolutely, yeah. So, and in the article I put, there's more information about Thanos and Star Fox or Eros, and it's kind of funny. But we did get a secondary one at the very end, which was very interesting. Charlie alluded to this: the Black Knight, Dane Whitman. There, he opens up the case at the very end. It is the Ebony Blade, another blade made by Merlin. This blade apparently has a blood curse. The more death you bring with the weapon causes the user to be insane. You heard noises from the blade. You saw the blade metal move with his fingers, but then you heard a voice at the end. Do you know who the voice was?
That was,
There were two.
It was
schools of
not
thought.
Nick
it
Fury.
was not Nick Fury. Well, okay, well, take that back. It was. Do you mean it was the what's his face, the green dude who plays Nick Fury? Because we don't know. what actually
No.
happened.
No.
It-
There were two schools of thought. My buddy my buddy Joe, a photographer who was sitting next to me, said that's Marshawn Ali as Blade, and that is the correct answer. My partner Kurt, who I went to school with, who Todd and I have had a lot of conversations with about some different celebrity interviews that he's wanted to hook us up with, said he thought it was The Watcher. So he thought the Jeffrey Wright versus Marshawn Ali, that maybe the voices were a bit similar, maybe, so you could see how they would be mixed up. But I was totally with what Joe had to say, because I thought Blade, and he's picking up the Ebony Blade, so that really clicked with me.
Yes. Chloe Zhao did confirm it was Marshala Ali, which brings Blade, the Daywalker. He's going to join this group, and he's more on the supernatural side. And I think this is going to be a cool place where the Eternals could, well, the Black Knight could play, and could be very fun. So I think that was the other one that was just like, okay, I like Harrington. I think this is cool, and it could be another edition where he's not weighted down by the Eternals, just how he's introduced, which I think is a fun way to do it. But once again, this is a character nobody knows who he is. The voice, nobody knows that's happening because Blade hasn't even been in a movie yet. So a little bit odd. Once again, nothing really here to really make a diehard MCU fan that loves all of the interconnectivity kind of swooning, because all these things are yet to come, right? These are all new additions, things that haven't happened yet, and none of these characters are ones that people have an affinity for. So it's really an interesting take, and I understand why there's less buzz for this one, although it is surprising with the Rotten Tomatoes score, which I will say this. Rotten Tomatoes, once again, because you get just because you felt something was okay, it could be a negative. If you thought something was pretty good, which isn't like like glaring, like fantastic, it becomes a positive. So Rotten Tomatoes takes like a mildly positive becomes a big positive. So you could have the most meh good movie become 100% fresh. So Rotten Tomatoes is a hard one to pass through.
Well,
maybe Metacritic's better.
They also got bombed because people were, they were, they didn't like the fact that Chow directed it. They didn't like the fact that, and I mean, I'm going to be honest. I had just a little giddy of a time when I knew that all of the dudes who were super pissed, who stand for Iron Man and don't like the fact that we're getting an Ironheart, and you got to see that basically a black gay man was the origins of like all of the crazy technology, as he's, like all of Tony Stark's crazy voodoo stuff was like basically based off of him. Like, I love that part. That made me laugh really hard. And so I think that this movie has been getting a lot of just unjust hate because some people in the comics communities are just a-holes.
Well, now this is where I would say this actually disagrees with that, Katie. I looked at the Rotten Tomato meter. The audience score is 81%. So this is
fantastic.
Like the
so they must have adjusted that because they
were. So there's always two. There's always two ratings. So the tomato meter is reviews by certified critics. So these aren't just average Joes out the street. So they're at 48%. These are verified critics who don't have an agenda against it. These are certified critics. Typically, you see the audience that bombs it, or is the audience. These are average Joes off the street that do it with video games, things like that. It's the worst ever. I'm like, but it's like the movie's been on an hour. How can you even have a rating for it? So I would say this one's a little bit different. I think people, and that's where I say I think Rotten Tomatoes is a horrible score for like critical review, because even someone can have some positive things to say, and it's like, it's not the greatest. So it kind of skews as a negative, even though it's not like the worst thing in the world. So I would say, I think it's worth seeing. You may not love it because you're a Marvel fan, but I told my wife, I think you'd find things that are really lovable about this movie.
Well, I would definitely say if you're not a Marvel fan, go watch it, because like my friend who
I think so too.
hates Marvel movies, she doesn't watch them with me. She does not want to watch any superhero movies. She absolutely loved this movie. So I would say if you're not a Marvel fan, go watch it.
Wow. Yeah, just to divorce that comic part of it altogether.
Yeah.
That I think that's a valid perspective. I like that.
Yeah. I think the truest part of the problem that Marvel's going to have is keeping everything linked for the foreseeable future will be harder, because you have to satisfy those fans and things that have to still connect. And that's harder from a narrative perspective. I mean, Charlie, canon in comics for 50 years, where DC is actually, they're moving away from that, right? They've said, we're just going to make good films. They don't have to interconnect. We want to make the best Superman film. If it doesn't connect, that's fine. We want to make a great Superman film. making everything connect is going to lead to some bad decisions. It's going to lead to some bad films. It's going to do that eventually because it becomes unwieldy because you've got to remember X happened in Disney Plus show. You got to remember this happened, what's canon, what's not. And that, to me, if Kevin Feige leaves, Charlie, I don't know who could take the reins and say, this is going to happen. Yeah. So,
Right. Who else can float the boat? No,
Well,
I got
you even see that with Michelle Ali being Blade because he was in Luke Cage.
Right.
So,
Right.
You're getting some of that weird duality where, they're like, okay, well, this stuff isn't canon. And, and even that was mixed signals at, certain points.
Yeah.
Well,
and when
Alfre Woodard did the same thing. She was also in Luke Cage and then had a cameo in Civil War as the woman who kind of kicked off Civil War. Yeah. So.
Well, and then we said about Salma Hayek being in more Marvel movies. I'm like, how? Is it flashbacks? I don't know.
Right. All flashbacks all the time.
So let's give a score for this movie. We won't do Rotten Tomatoes. We will truly make it known what our feelings are, and they won't be certified fresh because, we're pretty fresh people. So Katie, what would you give it out of 10 Celestials? Rolls off the tongue.
I'm going to say, and this might just be the hype that I just saw it. So maybe on my second watch, I won't love it as much. But I'm going to say probably 9 out of 10 Celestials. Because I think this might be my next favorite Marvel movie.
Wow.
I really, really enjoyed it. I thought they had a lot of heart to it.
Hey, Charlie.
I would say, I'm not, I may be more, I may be actually more engaged after having this conversation and hearing Katie's perspective about the found family. So where I might have been middle of the pack, and my friend Kurt, who saw it in advanced screening because he's a journalist, was absolutely kind of crapping all over it. I actually think I might land this at a 6 or a 7 for me. I thought that part of it, it's funny as I get older and I tend to tear up at more things as I'm watching movies, particularly thinking about families and fathers and sons and whatever, is that seeing stuff like this really touches me. So that part of it alone, and again, Katie, I think you really nailed it on the head and maybe helped me appreciate it in a different way, makes me feel a little bit more strongly that this was a better film than initially I might have given it credit for. So we'll call it a 6.5.
I'll give this one an 8 because the family connection did. The Sprite character specifically, I didn't talk to this earlier. Talk about a heartbreaking tale, trapped in a teen's body, in love with the male, following him, betraying her family to follow the person she loves. That was really, and losing basically her immortality to have a normal life. That was a great moment. And I liked the relationship that she had with Camille's character. So I think those elements really played it out for me. As a Marvel movie, though, I would give it a different role. I'm like, this is connecting to the MCU and things like that. I'm like, this would be probably the lowest film, but from a film itself. So it's hard to have two ruling thought processes in this. So I get it, but it's like those people that love DC films that don't connect. And I'm like, I get it. You like a movie for what the movie is. So, oh well, that is it for the show. Katie, once again, thank you for joining us. Tell people where they can find you on the interwebs, because last time I got a couple things from you and I'm like, where can we actually find you? So
well, I got kind of thrown for a loop because I was like, oh right, people might actually want to follow me or something. That's weird.
Right?
So you can find me on Twitter at QT Geek, and that is Q_T Geek. And then you can find me on Instagram at Quintessential Geek. And that's Quintessential with two N's, played off of Harley Quinn.
And by all means, propaganda, when you're at Grand Rapids Comic Con, show people the podcast, the video podcast, to see how cool we are as geeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not actually going to be at Comic-Con.
Oh no!
I was wrapped up in my show, putting my show together, and so it completely flew past that it was even this next weekend. I had not even thought about it until you said something.
Oh my God! Well, please come down, and if you can find a way to come down and hang out at our booth, we'd love it. So, fingers crossed.
I say I will try to see if I can get maybe a 1-day pass for Sunday.
We'll send a Force Ghost.
Yes.
Send out a Force Ghost. And that's awesome. And of course, you can always find me, your faithful Star Trek guy, over on Twitter at VC3, spell it out. USSGrandPetoskey.com tells us all about our Star Trek fan club. And then, of course, all these Secret Friends Unite socials. I post on a lot of those too. So that's where you can find me.
Yes, and I forgot to mention this in the Geek Easy very quickly. I did the fundraiser for Extra Life this weekend. Actually streamed, so you can see my video game debut there. Raised $250 for Children's Miracles Network Hospitals. Loved doing it. Got to do some stream with my son and a friend of mine. So you can follow me on Twitch if you want and see some of that gameplay. It was kind of goofy. I stumbled at times, but I had a great time. Spartyon1998. Find me there on Twitch and at Toxtra on Twitter for all my hijinks. And I always put things out to the world at Secret Friends U. So there we are, Charlie. We are done. It's been a wrap. This has been wonderful. I'm glad we were able to record with this fantastic group.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. All right. And friends, I'll tell you as always that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In the truck.
Erishim, you betrayed us!
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.